'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Well, except for that one oversized lizard, and that obese bird, and that one snake, and Nacho Libre, and an old lab rat, and a clown, and about a couple hundred other various goons. Okay, so maybe it wasn't a silent night, but that won't dissuade this caped crusader. My suit may be black rather than red, but I've made my list and am checking it twice, and by the time that I reach the end of it, you better be nice, or this not-so-holy knight will kind of just stand there awkwardly and wait for you to attack, because in this video, I'm taking up the challenge and seeing if you can beat Batman Arkham Origins without throwing a punch. Let's quickly define what we are qualifying as a punch, and then I'll establish the rules. So what I'm counting as a punch in this challenge is anytime I clicked the left mouse button, as so. Countering is fine, just like in the last video, but in this game, a lot of Batman's counters involve punching because it depicts a much more aggressive Batman. Okay, so let's get to the rules. 1, no punching, because obviously. 2, all takedowns are allowed in this challenge, including ground takedowns, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then lastly, just like the last video, 3 cutscene punches do not count towards our final number. This game actually starts very similarly to Arkham Asylum. We get reports that Black Mask has taken over Blackgate, and that he has taken Commissioner Loeb prisoner. And it is now our job to suit up as Batman and go take care of it. Are we ringing any bells for you guys yet? Upon entering the prison, we're actually met with a very easy first challenge. It's just a simple counter to save knockoff Nick Fury, but then he has the audacity to attack us, so we have to take him down too. After that, we enter into this room, which also is, once again, very similar to the first combat room in Arkham Asylum. This was a little bit more of a challenging first fight than I expected, because there's only 2 of them, and you can't get a high enough combo going to take any of them out with a counter. This is actually a problem that I would later figure out how to solve without having to run back and forth, but as you can see, I tried using explosive gel, which they give you right away, unlike Asylum. So I did that. I guess at a point the game got pretty tired of me doing this, because then it went ahead and let out a few more inmates, and from there then I was able to build up the combo I needed and use special takedowns and other things to be able to fully take out all these inmates. So this is where things get a little complicated, and it's why I decided to justify ground takedowns. So this is one of the brutes. It's actually one of the smaller brutes, all things considered. Unlike Asylum, which didn't have these ones you have to use a beatdown, which includes a ton of punches, unless you use a ground takedown. I went and I tried all sorts of other things, smoke pellets, explosives, all sorts of crazy ideas. None of them worked, so I just finally decided I'm going to justify it for this one, because something I learned from City, which is going to come out here soon, is that there are going to be a lot of these guys. From there, I mean, we run into a couple more rooms full of bad guys, but I mean, just like I said before, as long as there's a couple of them, meaning like 3 or more, it's all about just building up the punches, and then you kind of can take care of them pretty easy. This guy was no problem at all. And then you gotta establish your bad guy somehow, so someone has to die. This was another brute, which, as priorly stated, a ground takedown takes out them just fine. I then was able to collect this SD card from a smashed drone, this will come in handy later. I then reached the roof of the building where we got to our first boss fight of the game. I'm not going to show you all the footage because it's not all that important and it's very repetitive, but I will tell you that it is at this point of the video, I have to say, no, you cannot beat Arkham Origins without punching, because this boss fight and many others afterwards requires a lot of punches. After taking down Croc, I just calmly convinced him to tell me what he knew. And after a little bit of convincing, he told me basically that Black Mask had hired a bunch of assassins to come and kill me before the night was over.
8 assassins after your head. What are you going to do?
I'm going to find out who is operating this drone. Make them tell me what they know. Then I'm going to find Black Mask and put an end to this.
Then I had to go to the GCR tower because Riddler was jamming my comms. This consisted of a lot of Predator sections, which I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, skip. And I'll probably do the same with all the future ones, because Predator sections just revolve around silent takedowns and ground takedowns, so there's not really any need to search them for punching. After a little bit of detective work, which by the way is really good in this game, I had to do a quick little Zoom call with Riddler. And then I found myself standing in front of another obscenely sized moon. It's like a theme in this game series or something. And after a bit of fighting with his goons, I just had a casual conversation with Shopping Mall Santa here.
Time to talk. Where's Cobblepot?
Let me go!
If you insist.
Riddler jammed my comms again, because he still has to be annoying. But we came to this rooftop fight, which was fine until I got down to these two, which I thought was going to be a problem, but there was actually this electricity here, and so I was able to just electrocute one and then take down the other. And then clearly he wasn't satisfied with our last conversation, so I had to make another call to Riddler. But after that unwanted social call, I had to go and collect some microchips from the surrounding area so that I could triangulate the Penguin's location, because he knew something about the murder at Lacey Towers. He ended up just being in hiding on a ship nearby, so after a quick Predator section, I was inside where I met these two, which after a ground takedown, I just wasn't a big deal. After wading through a few more rooms of just simple bad guys, I came to what I think is generally agreed to be the hardest boss fight in the game. Nah, I just kicked him in the face. I did, however, have to contend with this guy. I know I called the other guy a brute earlier, I'm pretty sure. He's more of like an armored thug. This is the real brute, and there's a couple in this game, and they are closer to like the Titan goons in the other games. There's no way to really take him down. I tried using my rope, I tried my cape theatrics, but ultimately it boils down, just like in the boss fights, to that you have to punch him. So eventually I just had to give in and just take him down. At this point we run into Slade Wilson, who has tracked us down to assassinate us. This fight is a lot of countering. It's part of why I enjoy it, and so really convenient for this fight. So we fight a little bit. He stands a lot. I have to do a lot of the initiating. You know, for a guy coming to assassinate me, I feel like standing around not punching is not a good strategy. Not that I'm really one to talk in this situation. You know how earlier I said that this fight really just boiled down to counterattacks? Well, I was wrong. While it gives off the illusion of being just counters, it really is just around 4 or 5 just sections of beatdowns where I'm gonna have to add a lot of punching to my overall thing. This fight is very similar cinematically to the Ra's al Ghul fight in City, which I haven't gotten to yet in my playthrough, but we'll see if it ends up being the same. But ultimately, lots of punches here.
It's over, Slade. What are you?
I'm the Batman, bitch.
Alfred alerts us that Black Mask has been killed, so we need to go figure that thing out. But we need to get the full picture, so we have to go to the GCPD. We need a disruptor, but thankfully we know a guy.
Talk, or you won't be walking anywhere, ever.
Then we have to fight through a couple more fight rooms, which is basically the same as everything else. A few brutes, but mostly it's just the same. We then head down to the cell block and take out all the guards, which definitely doesn't immediately result in a riot. There were these Bane wannabes here, and I definitely didn't at all just kill that one. They're not that hard though. They're essentially just brutes with a little extra spice, so that didn't take that long. Then we run into Barbara Gordon, who is real happy with breaking the law, but she basically tells us we need to go down to the sewers to get some sort of information. There's another one of the like super big brutes, not the armored thugs. I don't know what I'm gonna call them. So there's some more punches here, like a lot. After that, we were able to figure out where Black Mask was headed, which was the bank. But surprise, surprise, it wasn't actually Black Mask, it was Joker. That led us back to the steel mill in search of the real Black Mask, but we then encountered one of the actual armored brutes, the same as the big brutes, except for that you have to basically do the same thing twice, because it's one for their armor, and then one for them. So more punches were accumulated here. We then interrogated the real Black Mask for the identity of the Joker, but we were rudely interrupted by this snake. I'm not going to show this fight because it's mostly counters, so, dealt with her pretty easily. She did provide us with a little bit of information in that the assassins were all going to be meeting up, and that gave us the location of the Joker. After a quick fight in the parking garage, we made our way to the security room where we watched over the cameras as Joker also KO'd the electrocutioner, much like we did earlier. But it did provide us with some fancy new toys that we would use in the future. After that, we had to do a couple carnival games set up by the Joker, but none of them were too difficult. Just a couple balloons, a couple batarangs, nothing special. That is until we got to here, where there's another one of those big brutes. So, once again, many punches had to be thrown here. There's really nothing we could do to avoid it, unfortunately. Then we came to this next room, which also had one of those armored brutes, so even more punches had to be thrown. Unfortunately, the further towards the end of the game we get, the more of these types of bosses we're going to run into. So that's more punches to the count. The Joker then decided to ring in the new year a week early with his own set of fireworks. Finally, we made it to the penthouse, where we were able to confront the Joker, even though Bane kind of laid us out on the floor. And unfortunately, he blew up a building. Thankfully, it was just a construction site, but this was still the Joker, and we still needed to bring him in. So we got into our first fight. It's more just me throwing him around until this next very crucial bit of the fight, where it gave me a prompt I did not like. Couldn't do anything here, so I just had to wait until Bane came and knocked me out. Or over, I guess. We then get to the Bane fight, which I thought was actually going to be more punches, all things considered, because, you know, all the other boss fights were. But the actual damage that gets done during this boss fight, you can do with the counters or with batarangs. So after enough counters and just a lot of batarangs being thrown, he will then go into a stage of using his venom. And at that point, we then just have to go ahead and start laying on the punches and laying them on thick. And after doing that a few times, Bane kind of gets fed up with us, and so he decides that we need to take this fight to the roof. And it is at this point where the punches in this fight start going way up. So, fun. At this point, the fight follows a very basic structure. You just kind of batarang and counter him down until he activates his venom, and then you gotta do one of these beatdowns. And you do that a few times, and then that's really just the basic premise. The funny thing to me is you don't even use the beatdowns to do any of the damage. That's all done by the batarangs and counters. Like, what? Thankfully, before Bane could, kill me, the cops show up and start a firefight, which goes, about as planned or expected. But in that, the Joker gets knocked off the ledge, and I, being Batman, jump off to go save him. This kicks off the final act of the film, in which, Joker questions why I would save him from a falling building. But the important thing here is that we send him to jail.
Blackgate.
We then get this long walk-through exposition dump. There's a few fights in it, but they're with just simple goons, so it can just be done with counters. Considering this is a 9-minute little cutscene walkthrough type deal, I'm just going to skip. At this point, we got the glue grenade, which will be a handy tool that allows for some takedowns. Alfred doesn't want us to go out, but we do anyways. And we head to the morgue where we find Bane's goon instead of Bane. That leads to his lair, where there's a couple of these Bane goons, but the glue helps take them out. Then we find out that Bane has discovered our secret identity as Bruce Wayne. And now Alfred is going to be in danger. So we destroy the evidence and we head back home. But unfortunately, this prick has to, start a fire. He's planted some bombs, so we have to talk to Gordon. But Gordon doesn't believe us. So we go ahead and we just, we defuse those bombs on our own. Tried telling Firefly that he was no longer going to get paid, but he still wanted to try and kill me. This fight is actually mostly just batarangs, so I'm not going to show the whole thing. We then take him out, obviously. So he's no longer an issue. And then we resolve our issues with Gordon and decide maybe we could be friends after all. We work together pretty well. By the time I get back to the Batcave, Bane has already killed Alfred. We have to have our mandatory flashback to dead parents. But then I decide, no, we need Alfred for a few more sequels. And then it ends as it began. We find out the Joker has taken over the prison, which I know isn't technically again, but we've been here before. So once again, we suit up as Batman, but with the key difference that now we're working with Alfred. I, of course, have to fight my way into the prison, but that's not a big deal. I mean, it's just some simple goons guarding the entrance. Then there's a couple of just rooms of fights with goons. There's only two that are notable, which is this one, because it has a large brute. So that's some more punches that will need to be added. And then there's this one, which is, I mean, again the same, but this one also had a Bane goon in the midst, which wouldn't be a problem on its own, but in combination with the large brute causes a problem in that they're both like not incredibly easy to take out immediately, but as you can see, I just used a combo on that guy and then added up the punches here. Joker then gives us an ultimatum. He attaches a heartbeat monitor to Bane that's attached to the electric chair. So we either kill Bane or we kill Joker by proxy. And so it's an ultimatum where it's one of the three of us. Either I die, Bane dies, or the Joker dies. So that leads us into another Bane fight. Just like in every other fight, I tried everything. I tried bombs, cape theatrics, the works. And once again, didn't work, so ended up having to just rack up a lot of punches on this one. As I'm recording this, I haven't taken note of how many punches each of these takes, so that's why I just use a lot, because I actually don't know yet, but I will put it on screen for you guys. After we've beaten him down a lot, we electrocute him so that he dies and the Joker releases Gordon. And after we've satisfied the Joker and he runs off, we bring Bane back to life, just like we did with Alfred. But unfortunately, doesn't exactly just keep him incapacitated, and he jukes up on some more venom, and he really hulks out. This leads into a Predator boss fight. There's still some punches in the midst of this, but for the most part, it's just like Predator takedown type attacks. And then after that, we just attach Bane to these two electrical cylinders to really knock him out. After all the venom and the electricity that is coursing through Bane's body, he loses his memory of the fact that I am Bruce Wayne, which works out real handy for us considering this is only year 2 of being Batman. Then we find Joker in the chapel, where he's laughing over his victory of having made us kill Bane. So we get the chance to tell him a really funny joke, where we tell him Bane isn't dead. This leads into the final boss fight, which is really boring to watch when you're doing a no punching challenge, because Joker doesn't attack, so there's not any way to counter, and I tried using slides to knock him over, but I just kind of phased through him like he was a ghost or a hologram. I tried batarangs, I tried explosive gel, like literally every tool that I have in the arsenal I tried to use on this boss fight. Unfortunately, though, none of that worked, so ended up having to just give in and throw a few punches. And then finally, after 53 punches, which is just a missed opportunity for a new 52 reference, we rounded off with the final few cutscene punches, and we finally defeat the Joker. And so the prisoners were gathered in the jailhouse with care, in hopes a new warden soon would be there. And as I fly off into the darkest of nights, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. So, can you beat Batman Arkham Origins without throwing a punch? Unfortunately, no. It's not even close. Like, you end up with a grand total of 389 punches. That is between all the bosses and brutes. I just want to take a moment here and thank you all for watching and for your patience. I know that this is a video that I promised over a year ago. And editing just takes longer for me. So I really appreciate it that you guys have stuck in there and waited. If you enjoyed, let me know down in the comments. I love interacting with you guys. And give me suggestions on what you want to see next.